this is Kanaya, and today we're going to talk about how do you listen to both sides of the story. So, remember, you're not just listening to one side of the story, but you listen to both sides of the story. So, let's see what does it mean to listen to both sides of the story. The phrase listen to both sides of the story means to make an effort to understand different perspectives on a situation before forming an opinion or making a judgment. It emphasizes the importance of considering all viewpoints to gain a more complete and an accurate understanding of what happened. This approach encourages open mindedness and empathy, allowing for a more balanced and fair assessment of the situation. Here's a more detailed explanation. Recognizing subjectively, the phrase acknowledges that people's perceptions and interpretations of events can differ, and that's what one person considers the truth may not be the whole picture, promoting fairness and accuracy or accuracy. So let's see, promote
Accuracy.
accuracy. So promoting fairness and accuracy by listening to different accounts, one can avoid making hasty judgments based on limited information and potentially uncover hidden facts or nuances that might be overlooked otherwise. So, fostering understanding and empathy. Understanding the motivations and experiences of different individuals involved can lead to greater empathy and a more nuanced understanding of the situation. Encouraging resolution in conflict situations, listening to all sides can be a critical step in finding common ground and working towards a peaceful resolution. Essentially, listening to both sides is about seeking a more complete and accurate understanding of a situation by considering multiple perspectives rather than relying solely on one narrative. So, so if that tells you never be so quick to judge without knowing your stories. So let's see what this means. So don't be so quick to judge without knowing their story. So let's see what this means. Let's see what that means. The saying, don't be so quick to judge without knowing your stories, and emphasizes the importance of understanding the full content of a situation before forming an opinion about someone. It suggests that judging based on limited information, assumption, or biases can lead to unfair or inadequate perceptions. Instead, it so it can lead to unfair and inadequate perception. Instead, it encourages empathy and curiosity, urging individuals to seek to understand the experiences and circumstances that shape another person's actions and choices before forming a judgment. Here's a more detailed breakdown. Avoiding superficial judgments. So let's see what this means and see what is it really saying. So let's see what it's really saying. So let's see. So avoiding superficial judgments means refraining from forming opinions or evaluations based on solely on outward appearances or initial impressions. Instead, it involves looking beyond the surface and considering a person's character, motivations, and circumstances more deeply before making a judgment. Here's a more detailed explanation. Surface level observation. Superficial judgments are often based on easily observational traits like clothing, physical appearance, social status, and initial actions. Beyond the surface, avoid superficial judgment requires making an effort to understand the complexities of a situation and the person involved. Example, avoid instead of judging someone as lazy based on their messy appearance, one could consider if they are struggling with a different and one could consider if they are struggling with a difficult situation or personal challenges. Benefits. Avoid superficial judgments can lead to more empathy, better relationships, and a more nuanced understanding of the world. Consequences. Superficial judgments can lead to unfair biases, missed opportunities, and strained relationships. Examples of superficial judgments: judging a person's intelligence based on their accent or vocabulary, judging a person's character based on their clothing or possessions, judging a person's work ethic based on their initial output. By actively put by actively work by actively working to avoid superficial judgments, individual can cultivate more manageable connections and promote a more inclusive and understanding society. So, here's a more detailed breakdown. Avoiding superficial judgments. People often make quick judgments based on outward appearances or limited interactions without considering the complex factors that contribute to someone's behavior. This can lead to unfair and inadequate conclusions. The power of empathy. Understanding someone's story, their background, and the challenges they face, allowing for greater empathy and compassion. The importance of context. Judging without knowing their full story ignores the context in which actions occur. What might seem like a negative or questionable choice could be a reasonable response to a difficult situation. Promoting understanding. Taking the time to understand someone's perspective fosters better communication, stronger relationships, and a more nuanced understanding of the world. Personal reflection. The saying also encourages self-reflection, recognizing our own biases and tendencies to judge can help us be more mindful and considerate in our interactions with others. Examples. Imagine seeing someone yelling at a cashier. A quick judgment might be that the person is rude. However, if you know they were dealing with a family emergency and were incredibly stressed, your understanding might shift. So let's see what this part is. So your understanding might shift. So meaning like your understanding might be a little off because there's an emergency, or they telling you there might be an emergency. So let's see. So let's see. Might shift. Yes, so your understanding might shift or change meanings. So yes, change depending on the context. So let's see. So let's see. So let's see. So yeah, so your understanding might be off because someone was yelling, "Oh," or they might dealing with a family emergency, and they probably might be stressed already. So your understanding might shift means like your understanding might be off, or you don't understand what the person is. You don't understand what the person is saying or what they're going through and stuff. So that's what possibly what it means. So it says, in sense, the saying advocates for a more thoughtful, empathetic, and a nuanced approach to understanding and interacting with others, urging us to walk a mile in their shoes before forming judgment. So it's kind of like showing empathy. It's like, what does it feel like to be in their situation? What does it feel like to be in this situation? So now, so you're not having concern for yourself, but you're having concerns for others as well, because they've been in a situation, they've been through tough times. So that's why we should listen to both sides of the story to try to see why. So, how do you listen to both sides of the story? To understand the situation fully is to understand the situation fully, it's critical to listen to both sides of the story. This involves actively seeking out and considering different perspectives, even if they conflict with your own. By doing so, you can gain a more nuanced understanding of the situation, identify potential misunderstandings, and make more informed decisions. Here's how to effectively listen to both sides. Number one, number one, number one, actively seek out multiple perspectives. Don't rely on a single source. Don't assume you have the whole story just from one person's account. Seek out other individuals involved or those who have witnessed the situation from different angles. From different angles. Consider different viewpoints. Actively try to understand the situation from each person's perspective, even if it's vastly different from your own. This includes understanding their background, motivation, and what might be influencing their view. Look for patterns and inconsistencies. Compare the different accounts and look for patterns, contradiction, and areas where there might be a gap in the information. This helps you identify where further investigation is needed. So let's see. Contradiction. Let's see. Contradiction. Let's see. So compare look for patterns and inconsistencies. Compare the different accounts and look for patterns, contradictions for patterns, contradictions, and areas where there might be a gap in the information. This helps you identify where further investigating is needed. Number 2, practice active listening. Pay close attention. Focus your attention on the speaker. Minimize distraction and show genuine interest in what they have to say. Ask clarifying questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions to ensure you understand their perspective. Ask why questions to dive deeper in their reasoning. So let's say to ask why questions, we just want to ask, like, why is this person acting this way? Or why the person is acting in the way that they do. It's okay to ask why. That's why you want to know what's happening in their situation, and this person was doing something to trigger them, and they don't know what it was triggering them, and they don't even know, like, understand. We just try to understand why, or if you don't know, don't hesitate to ask questions. Just so you guys know, you more than welcome to ask questions based on their actions or based on what's being said or heard. So let's see. Summarize and reflect. Periodically summarize. Periodically. So let's see. Periodically summarize what you've heard to confirm your understandings and allow the speaker to correct any misinterpretations. Be empathetic. Try to understand the other person's feelings and experiences, even if you don't agree with their perspective. Number 3, avoid bias and judgment. Listen without judgment. Try to set aside your own opinions and biases. Try to set aside your own opinion and biases when listening to different accounts. Focus on understanding, not forming a quick judgment. Be aware of your own perspective. Recognize that your own background and experiences might influence how you perceive the situation. Try to acknowledge these influences and adjust your listening accordingly. Be open to changing your mind. If you find that the evidence or perspective shift your understanding, be willing to adjust your own view. By actively seeking out and considering multiple perspectives and practicing effective listening skills, you can gain a more comprehensive understanding of any situation, of any given situation. This allows for more informed decision making and foster greater empathy and understanding in your interaction with others. So you can watch this video to learn more about Phil Clemens' song Both Sides of the Story. So it's kind of like, this song is kind of about the same thing. It's about like listening to both sides of the story to see what's going on, or how, or let's see if one person is right or one person is wrong, or they both could be right. I'm not sure yet. So one person could be wrong. Well, no, One person could be right, the other person could be wrong, or one person could be wrong, or the other person could be right, or they both could be right, or they both could be wrong. You never know what the situation might come. So we don't wanna we don't wanna judge people too. We don't wanna deal with people too quick, or we just gotta listen. We can listen to whatever stories we tell, or it can be a group of people. Same thing with a group of people. They all could be right, or they all can be wrong. They all like so. Let's say the rest could be right and one person could be wrong, or the rest could be wrong and one person could be right. So we never know what situation might happen. So let's see what examples of listening to both sides of the story might be. So let's see. So let's see. So it says listening. So it says, what are some examples of listening to the both sides of the story? So listening to both sides of the story is critical for forming a fair and complete understanding of a situation. It prevents reliance on potentially biased or incomplete narrative, promotes empathy, and allows for more informed decision making. Examples include hearing both sides of a workplace conflict, understanding different political viewpoints, or even appreciating so 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 examples include hearing both sides of a workplace conflict, understanding different political viewpoints, or even appreciating the perspective of friends and family members in a disagreement. So, elaboration, avoiding bias, hearing only one side of a story can lead to the formation of biased opinions or judgments. By seeking out and considering different perspectives, we can mitigate the influence of personal biases and develop a more objective understanding. Promoting empathy, listening to others' experiences, especially those with different viewpoints, can foster empathy and understanding. It allows us to step into their shoes and see the situation from their perspective, even if we don't agree with it. So let's see, mitigate.
Mitigate.
Mitigate. So facilitating better decision and personal relationships, professional settings, or even in the context of news and current events. Listening to both sides can lead to better decision making. It ensures that all relevant information is considered, leading to more effective and informed choices. Examples: workplace conflict. Instead of immediately siding with a colleague based on another's account of a disagreement, Take the time to hear both sides of the story from each individual. This will help resolve the conflict more effectively and fairly. Political debates. When engaging with political discussion, actively seek out information from multiple sources and viewpoints. This will prevent you from getting trapped in ego chambers and allow you to form a more nuanced understanding of the issue at hand. Relationship disagreements. In personal relationships, actively listen to your partner's perspective when you're in conflict. This shows respect for the feelings and allow for a more constructive conversation and resolution. Historical events. When learning about historical events, it is important to consider multiple perspectives and accounts to gain a more complete understanding of the complexities and nuances involved. News reporting. Responsible news organizations strive to present both sides of a story to ensure fair and balanced reporting. And so let's see what are some examples to listening to both sides of the stories in school. And so in school, so in schools, the principle of listening to both sides of the story is critical for resolving conflicts, promoting fairness, and fostering understanding. Here are a few examples. Number one, student conflicts. Scenario: two students are arguing in the hallway. One student claims that the other pushed them, while the other student denies it. Wait, hold on. Scenario: two students are arguing in the hallway. One student claims the other person pushed them, while the other student denies it. Applying the principle. Instead of immediately punishing the student who is accused, a teacher or administrator should talk to both students separately to get their individual accounts of what happened. They might also talk to other students who witnessed the interactions. By listening to everyone involved, the school can gather a more complete picture of the situation and determine the appropriate course of action, which might involve mediation, conflict resolution techniques, or disciplinary measures depending on the circumstances. Number two, parent-teacher concerns. Scenario: a parent expresses concern about a teacher's classroom management style, claiming their child is being treated unfairly. Applying the principle. School administrators should listen carefully to the parents' concerns, but they should also gather information from the teacher to understand their perspective and classroom practices. This might involve observing the teacher in the classroom, discussing the situation with them, and reviewing any relevant documentation. By gathering information from both sides, the school can address the parents' concerns while also supporting the teacher and ensuring that all students are receiving a fair and effective education. Number three, scenario. Number three, bullying incidents. Let me see. Number three, bullying incidents. Scenario: a student report being bullied by another student. Applying the principle. School officials should take all bullying reports seriously and conduct a thorough investigation, which includes speaking with the student who reported the bullying, the student accused of bullying, and any weaknesses, it's critical to hear each perspective to determine the nature and severity of the situation. Punishing or reprimanding a child without understanding the reasons behind their actions can make them feel misunderstood and potentially damage trust. Number 4, dis- disagreements in a classroom scenarios. Students have different options during a class discussion on a controversial topic about applying a principle. A teacher should encourage students to express their viewpoints respectfully, allowing everyone to share their thoughts and justify their reasoning. The teacher can facilitate a productive discussion by monitoring active listening, asking clarifying questions, and ensuring that all students feel heard and respected. This approach helps students develop critical thinking skills and learn how to engage in civil discourse, in civil discourse, even when they disagree. In summary, listening to both sides of the story in schools is essential for fairness, ensuring that all individuals involved in a conflict or situation have an opportunity to share their perspective. Resolution: gathering sufficient information to make informed decisions and find appropriate solutions. Trust: building positive relationships between students, parents, and school staff. Empathy: fostering understanding and compassion among students. So let's say, so these are problems that they might have in school. So let's see, like when you at home and you listen to both sides of the story at home. Listen to both sides of the story, even to either the kids or you or the kids. So let's see. So either they two might fight together, or it's just you and the teenager, you and the kid might fight, or if they did something to trigger them or to upset them. So let's see. So examples of listening to both sides of the story in a family setting. Number 1, resolving sibling conflict. The situation: two siblings, Sarah and Tom, are arguing over a toy. Listening to both sides instead of immediately taking sides or punishing one child. The parent gathered both Sarah and Tom to hear their perspective. Sarah's story: she explains she was playing with the toy first, and was frustrated when Tom snatched it. Tom's story: he explained he thought Sarah was done and felt excluded when she wouldn't let him have a turn. Resolution though, resolution through listening. By listening to both sides, by listening to both, parents understands the underlying frustration and excluded felt by each child. They can then facilitate a decision. They can then facilitate a discussion where the children can express their feelings and work towards a solution by setting a timer for sharing or finding other toys to play with together. Number 2, addressing teenagers' disobedience. The situation: A teenager, Emily, stays out past her curfew, listening to both sides. Instead of automatically imposing punishment, the parent first listens to Emily's explanation, parent's perspective. She explains that she lost track of time while hanging out with friends and apologizes for not communicating her delay. So, parents' perspective means they explain their concerns for her safety and the importance of respecting agreed upon rules. Resolution through listening. By listening, the parent can acknowledge Emily's perspective while still reinforcing the importance of rules. They might discuss ways to avoid future mishaps, like setting phone reminders or checking in regularly when out. Number 3, navigating in general differences. Navigating in general in generational Number 3, navigating intergenerational differences. So let's see what this means. Let's see. So navigating intergenerational differences, whether in families or in workplace, requires understanding, respect, and a willingness to adapt. Key strategies include promoting open communication, fostering mutual learning through mentorships, and offering flexible solutions that accommodate diverse preferences and needs. So, let's see. Let's see. Okay. So, in the workplace, education and awareness, understanding the core values, communication styles, and work preferences of different generations is critical. Mentorship programs, cross-general mentorships, including diverse mentoring where younger employees mentor older ones, can bridge gaps and can foster mutual learning. Flexible work arrangements, offering options like flexible hours, remote work, and job sharing can cater in the diverse needs of different generations. Open communication, creating safe spaces for open dialogue and feedback using a variety of communication channels and an actively solicit input from all generations are essential. Celebrate diversity. Highlight the unique strengths and contributions of each generation can foster a more inclusive and collaborative environment. In families, active listening and empathy. Make a conscious effort to understand each other's perspective and experiences is vital. Share activities. Engaging in activities that brings generational divides by cooking a family recipe or sharing stories can strengthen bonds. Technology as a bridge. Utilizing technology to stay connected and share information rather than letting it create a divide is important. Patience and understanding. Recognizing that general differences can lead to misunderstandings and approaching these situations with patience and a willingness to learn is the key. So let's see. So it says the situation. A grandparent, the grandparent disapproves a child's mother parenting choices, listening to both sides. Both the parent and grandparent share their concerns and perspective respectfully. Grandparents' perspective. Grandparents' perspective. They express concerns based on their own experiences and traditional belief about child rearing. So, do you guys know what child rearing is? It's about parents raising a child. It's about how do you take care of them. So, when you have babies and you take care of them, you feed them, you give them shelter, you give them all they have so that they can appreciate all the stuff that you do for them. So so it's kind of like this. It's like parents raising a child. So it says child rearing is the raising or parenting of a child or children. So you know how you parent your children and they feed them, entertain them, or and get engaged in them and stuff like that. So parents so parents are responsible for attending to their child's basic needs, including food, clothing, and housing, physical and mental health care, meaning public or private education. So that's what really child rearing is. It's about their responsibility. so parents' perspective, they explain their choices based on current resource and their own parenting philosophy. Resolution through listening, by listening without judgment and seeking to understand each other's underlying values and intentions, they may find common ground and learn to respect their different viewpoints. They might agree to disagree on some points, but focus on shared goals like the child's well being and happiness. Key takeaways: active listening is critical. Full attention, interest, and seeking to understand the other person's perspective are important. Validate emotion. Validate emotion. Acknowledge and respect the feelings expressed by each person, even if there is a disagreement. Suspend judgment. Approach the conversation with an open mind, avoiding premature judgment or assumptions. Using I statements. Focus on expression personal feelings and needs instead of blaming others. Focus on solutions, not just problems. Work together to find maturity, agreeable solutions, or compromises. Respect different opinions. Understand that it's okay to have different viewpoints and that resolving conflict isn't always about winning. So what let's see avoiding premature judgment is. So let's see. So avoiding premature judgment means refraining from forming conclusions or opinions about someone or something before you have gathered enough information or experienced the relevant situation firsthand. Here's a breakdown of the concept. Premature. This term implies something happening before the appropriate or expected time, like making a decision or forming an opinion too early. Judgment. This refers to the act of forming a decision or opinion based on the evaluation or assessment. Therefore, a premature judgment is essentially making a quick decision or evaluation without sufficient data or experience. Why is avoiding premature judgment important? Prevents unfolded assumptions and misunderstandings. When you judge prematurely, you rely on when you prevents unfounded assumptions and misunderstandings. Why is avoiding premature judgments important? Prevents unfounded assumptions and misunderstandings. When you judge prematurely, you rely on assumptions or preconceived notations rather than a complete picture, which can lead to misinterpretations or errors. Preconceived notations rather than when you judge prematurely, you rely on assumptions or preconceived notations rather than a complete pictures, which can lead to misinterpretations and errors. Promotes effective listening and misunderstanding, as highlighted by the UNC Ombuds Office and others. When you avoid jumping to conclusions, you are more likely to listen effectively and understand the reasons behind others' statements and viewpoints. Foster open mindedness. Avoiding premature judgments is closely linked to having an open mind, which allows you to consider different perspectives and challenge your own biases. Improve decision making. By gathering more information and considering various angles before making a decision, you increase your chances of making sound and well-informed choices. So in a sense, avoiding premature judgments requires a conscious effort to be curious. Instead of judging, be genuinely interested in understanding the other person's perspective and asking open-ended questions to learn more. Be mindful. Pay attention to your own thoughts and emotions, recognizing when you tip it to judge and redirecting your focus on the present moment and the information being shared. Be flexible. Be flexible. Challenge your assumptions and be open to considering different viewpoints, even if they differ from your own. Be respectful. Recognize that everyone has unique experiences and communication styles, and treat them with consideration. By making these efforts, you can build better relationships, improve your decision making, and navigate the world with greater clarity and understanding. So these are examples of what it is of premature judgments, or that's what premature judgment is. It's like when you judge someone too early, you know. So let's see. Let's see. Let's see. P. So that's what it is. So you want to avoid premature judgment and avoid regular judgment. So premature judgment means like do not to make the judgment too early. Judge by yourself means don't. So it says don't rush into judgment. That's what it all is. So let's see. So when you judge, so let's see. Judge. So let's see. So let's see. So when you like judge someone, you forming an opinion about someone or something after careful thought. So after careful thought. So you should not judge people by their appearance because it could hurt someone's feelings and make someone feel down, right? So so we never want to do that. So so yeah, so this is why we should listen and get the full story of what's going on before you judge someone, right? So we gotta take it slow. So let's say if you're at a workplace and you see, and let's say if two or more people got into a conflict, right? So let's say, so let's see. So hearing both sides of a story at work is essential for fostering fairness, understanding, and resolving conflict effectively. Here are some workplace examples of situations where listening to both sides is critical. Number one, conflict resolution. Two employees disagree on a project's direction. Employee A believes method X is superior, while employer B advocates for method Y. Instead of immediately choosing one method, a good manager or a team leader will listen to both employees' reasonings, their data, or any concerns they have before making a decision. Customer complaint. A customer complaint. Hold on. It says customer complaint. A customer accuses an employee of being rude. While the customer's account is important, it's equally important to hear the employee's perspective on the interaction to understand the full context and identify the best way to address the situation. Number two, performance evaluation. Employee struggles with a task. Instead of assuming incompetence, a manager should listen to the employee's perspective. Perhaps they lack the necessary training, resources, or are facing personal challenges impacting their work. Understanding the root cause is critical for providing appropriate support and improvement plans. Team collaboration. Different departments have conflicted needs. The marketing team needs the product launched by a certain date, but the development team needs more time to ensure quality. Listening to both sides helps find a compromise that benefits the entire organization. Number 4, addressing rumors or gossip. If negative rumors about an employee circulates, instead of judging the employee based on hearsay, it's important to hear their side of the story and investigate the situation throughout before taking any action. Implementing new policies. Employees express concerns about a new policy. Before dismissing their concerns, leaders should listen attentively to their feedback. This shows respect for their perspective and can help identify potential issues with the policy's implementations. Why is listening to both sides so important in the workplace? Fairness and justice, and it ensures everyone gets a chance to be heard and understood, leading to more adequate outcome. So I'm going to restate the question. Yes, I'm going to restate the question and the answer. So it's important to listen to both sides of the story in the workplace because it ensures everyone gets a chance to be heard and understood, leading to more adequate outcome. Reduce conflict. And understanding different perspectives can help de-escalate disagreements and find solutions that works for everyone. Impaired problem solving. Hearing diverse viewpoints provide a more complex picture of the situation, leading to more effective solutions. Increase trust and morale. When employees feel heard and valued, it builds trust and fosters a more positive work environment. Better decision making. Considering different perspectives leads to more informed and well-rounded decisions. In a sense, listening to both sides of the story at work is a fundamental practice for effective communication, conflict resolution, and creating a healthy and productive workplace. So that's why we just gotta listen to both sides of the story to ensure that to ensure that you understand. So that you understand, so you feel like you feel like you being there for them. So not everyone can do that. Because I know a lot of people has a struggle with that. So sometimes we just gotta understand the situation. So 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 let's see. So now we understand why we should listen to both sides of the story. So now that you listen to both sides of the story, now we can say, so it says what? So after you listen to both sides of the story. So let's see, what do you do next after you listen to both sides of the story? So after hearing both sides of the story, it's critical to process it's critical to process the information, analyze the perspective, and then consider the implications before forming a judgment or action. This involves actively listening, seeking clarification, identifying potential biases, and evaluating the evidence presented. Here's a more detailed breakdown. Number one, reflect on what you've heard. Active listening. Go beyond simply hearing the words. Pay attention to the speaker's tone, body language, and emotion the emotions convey. Clarifications. Don't hesitate to ask clarifying questions to ensure you understand the facts, perspective accurately. Identify biases. Recognize that everyone has their own perspective shaped by their experiences and beliefs. Try to identify any potential biases and a narrative you've heard. Analyze evidence. Evaluate evidence presented by each side. Are there any inconsistencies, contradictions, or supporting facts? Seek further information. If necessary, consult reliable sources to gather additional information and context about the situation. Number two, consider the implications. Empathy. Try to understand how each side feels and what their motivations might be. Potential impact. Consider the potential consequences of different actions or decisions based on the information you have. Constructive solutions. If a resolution is possible, focus on finding a solution that addresses the concerns of both sides. Fairness and justice. Strive to make a fair and just decision based on the evidence and the perspective you heard. Number three, take action. Formulate your opinion. After careful considerations, form your own informed opinion or judgment. Communicate. So, number two, communicate if necessary. Communicate your understanding and perspective to the relevant parties. Take action. Based on your understandings, take appropriate action, which might involve mediating, facilitating a resolution, or simply acknowledging the different perspective. By taking the time to thoroughly process information and consider different perspectives, you can make more informed decisions and foster a greater understanding of complex situations. A greater understanding of complex situations. So let's see. Let's see. What do you say after you hear both sides of the story? So like, what can you say? So let's see. So it says. After hearing both sides of a story, you can say that you have a more complete understanding of the situation. It's critical to acknowledge that the truth often lies in the synthetics of both perspectives rather than being solely on one side. Hearing both sides allows for empathy, critical thinking, and a more nuanced perspective. Here's why it's important to listen both sides. Completeness. each side of the story provides a unique perspective, and together they paint a more complete picture, right? So when you go to art and then they ask you to draw a picture of a house, then you paint a picture, right? So they just want to know the whole picture of what's going on. So now, because now they already know the whole story with what's going on, now they're going to figure out a solution. So they show empathy. Understanding different viewpoints can foster empathy and allows you to connect with the experience of others. Critical thinking. Weighing opposing arguments strengthen your ability to analyze information and form your own informed opinion. Reduce biases. Hearing both sides help mitigate the impact of the cognitive biases that can skew our national perception. Finding common ground. In some cases, exploring both sides might reveal common grounds or share concerns that were not initially apparent. Ultimately, listening to both sides of a story is a fundamental step towards understanding empathy and figure out a more adequate representation of the situation at hand. At hand. At hand. Yep. So, what is the quote about two sides of a story? There are always two sides to every story, and it is genuinely wise and safe and charitable to take the best. And yet, there's possible no way. And so let's see what this quote means. So it says there are always. Let me see. So let's see. So there are always two sides to every story, and it's generally wise and safe and charitable to take the best. And yet there probably no way in which persons are so liable to be wrong as in presuming the worst is true, and in informing and expressing their judgment of others and of their actions without waiting till all the truth is known. So let's see what this means. Or another one could say there are always two sides to every story. Understanding is a three-edged sword. So let's see what this quote is. So the quote emphasized the importance of considering multiple perspectives before forming a judgment about a situation or person, particularly when it comes to interpreting actions or intentions. It suggests that while it is wise and charitable to assume the best, is a common mistake to immediately assume the worst without seeking a full understanding of the facts. Here's a breakdown of the quote's meaning. There are always two sides to every story. This highlights that every situation has at least two viewpoints, and is critical to acknowledge that there may be more than one way to interpret events. It's generally wise and safe and charitable to take the best. This suggests that giving people the benefit of the doubt and assuming positive intent is a good approach, as is kinder and less likely to lead to misinterpretations. Yet there is possible no one way in which persons are so liable to be wrong as in presuming the worst is true. This is the core of the quote's message. It acknowledges that while assuming the best is generally wise, even it's even more dangerous to immediately assume the worst. Judging someone based on incomplete information, especially with negative assumptions, is a common pitfall. And informing and expressing their judgment of others and of their actions without waiting until all the truth is known. This emphasizes the importance of waiting for all the facts before forming an opinion. Jumping to conclusions based on limited information, particularly with negative assumptions, is likely to lead to inadequate judgment. In a sense, the quote encourages a balanced and cautious approach to judgment, urging individuals to seek a full understanding of a situation before forming opinions rather than immediately assuming the worst. According to Jonathan Edwards, the author of the quote, it's better to be charitable and assume the best, but it's more important to avoid jumping to conclusions based on limited information. So guys, that's it for this video. So if you have any questions, concerns, or statements, then you leave it down here in this video. Or if you feel like your questions are already answered, then you can comment down below on this video. So I hope you enjoyed this video. So I hope you like, subscribe, and comment down below on my YouTube video, and that we learn that never be so quick to judge without knowing their stories. You hope you guys remember what I said now. Don't be so quick to judge without knowing their stories. So that's what the expression of the day is. Thank you guys for watching.